Natasha Oquindo, and I decided to come on and share just a little bit. I just came over a milestone of celebrating my 22nd year wedding anniversary. So me and my husband, we've been married 22 years. We've been together actually 24 years, right? All together, but 22 years married. And as we were celebrating this, just so many little things started coming to me. So I just kind of text them to myself in hopes that I can share it and maybe it can add value to somebody, right? And so I want to start out by saying this, and I'm excited, y'all. This year we did a little different, kept things a little simple, and actually really, really had some, instead of just celebrating and doing all this other stuff, we really keyed in on one another, right? And we've done that before, but this year, for some reason, it was a little different. And it was very, very enjoyable. I am excited about it. But I thought about this and I wanted to just share. And and y'all kind of excuse me because I'm looking at my phone. I sent it to myself because I didn't want to miss anything in hopes, like I said, this can bring value. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm going to be sharing various things, wisdoms and things that I've learned in various areas. So today, this will be the area which we're dealing with relationship. And I want to deal with the most intimate one, which is marriage. And I'm going to read these backwards because I'm going to save the first one for last because I think I need to expound on it really, really good. But one of the things that I've learned after 22 years of marriage, one of the key things that I've learned, and there's many, y'all, but I'll share just a few, and I may do a few of these, right? To recognize and affirm each other's value daily. That means to show appreciation daily, right? Make sure that you're giving compliments daily. If there's a pride thing or an ego thing or fear there with showing your mate or complimenting them, we do need one another's affirmation daily. I know a lot of times women are viewed as being really, really needy in this area, especially women who have had what we call daddy issues. It's a real thing. Men and women both have daddy and mama issues, some of us. But I would say it's a dangerous thing. The reason I said this one first, because it seems simple, but it's a dangerous thing to take for your mate to feel as though they're being taken for granted, right? And so one thing that I've learned throughout the years, and it's something that we've done effortlessly, is to affirm one another daily, constantly. It's like a way of life. One of the things that I enjoy in this stage of our lives is breakfast. And I know it seems weird, but it is something that I look forward to on a regular basis. And so when my husband, he does this breakfast the way I like it, something real simple. I like to have my hash browns with spinach and maybe mushrooms and colorful bell peppers on it. And he does that most times when he's able to do breakfast for me. And I always look forward to it. And I always let him know how delicious it is. Now, it may be the same thing because that's something that I want. That's something that I enjoy. But I make sure that I don't take it for granted. I acknowledge it. Each time. Honey, this is so good. This tastes good. It's good. Thank you, honey. And it's simple, but that affirmation makes a person feel good about serving one another in whatever capacity that is. But I will say what I've learned throughout the years and what I have seen is when you take each other for granted, that can become very dangerous. And that leaves your mate open for somebody else's affirmation. The enemy know how to send somebody else to affirm. The enemy know how to send somebody else to compliment. And so you need to be the biggest cheerleader in your mate's life. I don't care what area it is. Affirm them. I don't care how simple it is. And I would say these are not partial. These are like ping pong, back and forth, meaning both male and female need to do this for one another. It is very effective and very simple, very easy, right? And so I decided to do that one first because it can easily go unrecognized. So that was the first thing I would say that I've learned out of 22 years of marriage is to make sure that you recognize and affirm your mate, compliment your mate, show them that they're there, that you see them, right? That you see whatever effort it is that they're doing. Whatever it is that you notice about them that may be simple, whether they change their haircut, whether they change the way they doing something different, anything different, be mindful and be in tune, right? Be in tune. Number 2, and I'm reading these out of order, y'all, so I'm going to just do them the way I feel like they need to come in order, right? The next thing I would say is number 2 is to be open to change of interest, right? Be open to change of interest. You know how it is. You may have things that you're interested in. Like I'll use this for my husband. He's very interested in sports, which most males are. And they have this, man, this hypeness and this aggression. It's like they in the game, right? It's like they playing this game out in the body of other people, right? And so make sure that you're open to change of interest. Even if it's something that you're not interested in, then find something that your mate is interested in that you may not be interested in and indulge it. Let it become your thing, right? You got to accommodate those likes. Like I'm not so big on the football, right? But I like boxing. My husband loves boxing. I like boxing. So that's something that I can engage with him that he loves, right? Something that he loves. And the same thing he does for me is romantic comedies. I love romantic comedies. And so we pick time at night or whatever, and we watch romantic comedies together. It may not be something that he's so much interested in, but, he'll indulge it for me, right? And so even royalty shows, I love queenly royalty shows and stuff like that, queenly and kingly royalty shows. And so he'll engage those to entertain me, right? Because there may not be so much of his interest, but it is mine, right? Another thing that we engage, I love bike riding. And so that's something that we have decided to choose to do together. So we went out and we bought bicycles. I was doing it for, to maintain my exercising regimen as part of my regimen, right? But it was something that we decided to do together. So we do it together, which is good because, being that my husband is much taller and, I have to pretty much keep up with him. So that pushes me real good, almost trainer-like, if that makes sense. And so I'm just using those as small examples. But find something that your mate likes and engage it. Engage it with them, right? You have to compromise that sometimes. You can't just only be caught up with you. And I say this, these are small things, but they are very important. They're things that I noticed that they are very effective. Why? Because especially as you get older, as we've been together 2 decades and some change, right? And there are many shifts that take place in a marriage, in a relationship that have gone on that substantial amount of time. But I say that to say, you don't want to become this couple that by the time you get in your older years, you're just completely divided. I've seen that. A house divided against itself, how can it stand, right? And so people by the end time are divided within their marriage. They're doing their own things completely, living their own lives. And not saying that you don't have me time. Of course you have me time. That's a healthy thing. But I'm saying don't have so much me time till your mate almost feels like an inconvenience, if that makes sense. Get in the rhythm of enjoying each other's company. That's what you're building. You're building that intimacy to where you're enjoying each other's company and it's healthy, right? And so that was one. And let's see. I'm just looking, y'all. Now, I want to say this. Number 3. And this is just a heads up. If you're not at this space, and maybe if you're at this space and maybe it's something that you just was numb to or didn't pay attention to, but the attribute that you fall in love with in the beginning about your mate will not be the reason you continue, right, to love them like you do. And let me say this. We were in our 20s when we got together. And so being married 22 years, my husband is full-blooded Puerto Rican. I am Black Indian, Black and real deep roots of Indian running through my bloodline. And so I say that to say, he in the beginning was so, they say that about Spanish people that they're spicy. And so my husband is spicy. A lot of people don't know that because he's pretty laid back. But if you're around him, if you're watching him when he's watching the game and stuff like that, or his interaction, you like, oh, whoa. Lot of energy coming from that way, right? And so I can remember, and being that I was high strung and intense, I was laid back most times, but I had different things that would have me to get intense, right? And so in the beginning stages, man, that was it. We both was intense. We both was passionate about what we saying. But now, 2 decades in, that's not it. That's not it. The high strung thing is not it. It's like, oh, tone down, bring all that energy just down. And I'm saying that because you think about it. As I'm heading into 50 years old and, we're both 49 right now. It's like things are different. You're like, pull all that in, tone all that down. Just, it's almost like you want somebody to tiptoe. And anybody that is, any women that's around my age or dealing with perimenopause or anything of that nature, you understand clearly what I am saying, right? It's like you borderline anxiety about everything. Like, wait, what now? Everything that's too much, you like, oh, that's too much. I can't shut all that down all the way. And that's just an example, right? And that takes me into the next point that I want to make. And you have to be open for that the attributes that you once in the beginning stages just may have admired or may loved or because of the stage of life you were in or because of your background and where you came from, that was the thing and that connected you and all of that. But you have to be open for those things to change. The attributes that you once loved might come to loathe, if that makes sense. And so I say that to say that each mate can't get offended with one another about those changes, but try to accommodate it, right? And so that was number 3. Let me get to number 4. This leads me into number 4. I have studied your mate to learn the shifts in what they need from you, right? I am a firm believer, right, that there are shifts that take place. I want to say, I would like to say every 7 to 10 years, there are shifts that your relationship takes. or your marriage takes when you're with a person for a long length of time. And what I have noticed is you have to study one another. Study one another to learn the shifts in what they may need from you. What they needed from you starting out is not going to be what they need from you 7 years later. What they needed from you in 7 years is not going to be the same of what they need from you. And I'll say even those shifts, but I would say also on different seasons of their lives, being in tune. And let me give you some examples. And these are ones that I jotted down. In the beginning stage, you might come off as the person who has wisdom. So you're giving advice to your mate on what they need to do about certain decisions they need to make. Especially the beginning stages, both come in full of advice for one another because you're going to see different things within that relationship that person may be battling with right off. And one key one would be family. How that husband or that wife interacts with their family and how their family handles them. Maybe you're married to somebody and you notice that their family uses them financially. They're always pulling on them. And they may be going through some hard times and you're looking like, and you're standing back and you're that advisory person, right? You're trying to give that advice. You're seeing these little kinks and you're trying to get that person to make sure that they're in a healthy space with all of that interaction, because it can definitely be toxic. You can come into your relationship or your marriage toxic with family dealings, family stuff, right? Mindsets, interactions, all of that. And so you might start out giving good advice and trying to be that voice of reason so that they can see that this is affecting you and it's not beneficial to you. This is not healthy, or I'm concerned, and that's the way we show concern. And so, but after a substantial amount of time, that may not be what they need from you or the role that they need to play, that you need to play in their life for the next season or the next shift in that relationship. As a shift in the relationship, they may need encouragement from you, right? Or not just encouragement, because we can easily be encouragers. But it may come a time in their life. Maybe they're stepping out into their own business. Maybe they're stepping out to answer the call of God. Whatever it is, what they need is that support. So it has to shift from just advice to support and maybe advice, right? But as they make these shifts, as their life shifts, what you bring to the table, right? It's like adding to your faith. You might start out with faith, but then you have to eventually add to your faith. And so this is similar. You may have to add to it. Maybe that person is going through something where they feel like the world is coming against them. You know what I mean? And maybe they need you to be that protection, or maybe they need you. Maybe different things are unstable all around in that season, and maybe they need to pull on you as that stability, something that's consistent, something that's stable, right? And so learning those shifts, studying your mate, not just assuming that you know, right? Don't just assume that you know what they need. Because a lot of times these shifts are major in a marriage, in a relationship. And I mean, this applies to various relationships, various avenues, whether it's relationships with parents and kids, relationships with those who are friends, those who are associates, whatever the case, business partners, whatever, right? But in a marriage, it is very, very important. And it's something that I noticed each time our marriage took that shift, and which is like maturing, trying to mature. And this is when people fall off. This is where people want to have a divorce, or they feel like, inconcilable differences. I don't know you. I don't know this person you've become. And so you have to take the time to figure out what they need. Study them. Study your mate. That's just like the Bible says, study to show yourself approved, a good workman, rightly dividing the word of truth. Study your mate to see and discern and pick up what they may need, even if that brings you out of your comfort zone, because you may be used to interacting with them a specific way, but they may need another way. So you have to be open, and that is a mutual thing. We still playing ping pong, right? This is not a one-man job. This is both individuals putting in the work, right? And I definitely can attest to all these shifts. I can attest to all these shifts. When I was answering the call of God, I literally needed that encouragement. I just needed some encouragement of recent. That's how serious it is. Feeling protected, feeling safe, especially when you are dealing with various avenues of trying to get things done and dealing with all types of people and individuals. You definitely want to be that safe space, that safe zone, right? Just in life in general, everything that we interact with in life, we definitely need a safe zone. But there come seasons and times within that relationship or in that marriage where you might have to pick it up a notch, take it up a notch. No different than when you hit certain seasons in your life in prayer. Sometimes you have to take it up a notch, right? And so I had this one first, and this one is first. Definitely, but I saved it for last because I want to make sure that this is impactful. But in my little, I'm reading out my phone stuff I sent to myself, right, in the wee hours. But it says, build your relationship by advancing your communication. I believe communication is very, very valuable. And if you notice, I did not say just talking. I did not say just talking. You may start out talking, and then you may go into speaking with one another. But you want to get to where you're communicating effectively with one another. And I want to kind of tarry here just a little bit. When you're communicating, and when I say build your relationship by advancing your communicating to the point to not just be heard. I want to say that because when we were younger in our beginning stages, I remember, like I said, both of us were spicy. Both of us had a strong opinion, and we wanted to be heard. We wanted the other person to hear. Do you hear what I'm saying? Do you hear me? And you know how that is when you feel like you're not being heard. I mean, it can get intense. It can get heated, right? Them discussions can get heated. And one thing about me, per se, and I can be very transparent with this one. My husband had to learn how to communicate with me effectively, because if we get intense, where voices is being raised and getting loud, I don't know. I'm sure it's other people like this, but I just tune all the way out. It's like I go MIA. It's like I miss everything that's being said. And there's a reason for that. During my childhood, with being fussed at or cussed at or handled some type of way, that affected me to where I can't really deal with nobody just yelling at me or screaming or blasting me. Like, I literally tune out, and I go into that tune out to keep me from reacting, because I'm a little different. I'm not the type of person that I used to, and let me say it. Back then, I couldn't do the back and forth real hard yelling because I had a temper, right? And so I tune out so that I don't go out, if you get me. So I tune out. And that was just something that I had from even when I was younger. I would just tune out. It may be a protective mechanism to keep me, from negatively responding to stuff, because my heated goes somewhere else that it don't need to go, right? And I learned that early on. And so when you really know yourself, and through communication, you're building your relationship. No different than you build your relationship with God. You get in the Word and you study, and you also learn to communicate effectively with God, right? You come from just talking, just mere talking, to where you're actually communicating, not just to be heard. Now, for those who are advanced in prayer, you know what I'm talking about. But you get to a place where you're communicating not just to be heard, but to better be understood and to understand, if that makes sense. To me, that's the advancement of communication. What I have learned over the years is to communicate, to understand where my mate is coming from, and vice versa. To communicate in such a way to understand where each other is coming from, right? There is nothing, that's the thing. That's one of the biggest things about communicating. You can talk and still not truly understand where that individual is coming from or what they even mean. And a lot of times people fall out or they bump heads because something was said and you didn't understand. You was talking to be heard, but not to understand, right? And so, and another thing that I want to say is, as you're communicating, you also, which this kind of coincides with the story that I'm saying, that I shared, is you learn the tone and the delivery that your mate best receives. That's advancement, right? That's advancement in communication. You learn the best tone. And of course, it's through trial and error. But I'm telling you what I've learned throughout 22 years of being married and being happily married. You learn the tone, right? My husband, he knows that, the yelling don't work for me. Because I'm like, at this point, it's like Charlie Brown mama, womp, 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 womp. Or like you speaking Mugu Gapan to me, right? Because I've checked out. But when the tone is there and the delivery is there, and that is something that you work on, playing ping pong again with one another, learning your mate's delivery language, learning what can deliver it. And I'm talking about when you're delivering it, I'm saying being transparent, apart from manipulation, apart from flattery with a motive and all of that. No, you're truly learning the tone. And I'm saying not in instances just to get your way or to get something that you want, but to better understand one another. Even the Bible talks about wisdom is the principal thing, but in all of our getting, get understanding. And so that is the valuable thing, one of the most valuable things that I have watched us grow through into a place of communicating in a way that's effective enough, regardless of what needs to be said, finding the tone and the delivery that is best receptive for one another, and doing it to a place of understanding and not just to want to be heard, right? Not just to want to be heard. Just wanting to be heard means what you're saying is more important and you don't care what the other person is saying. But if two people are going to be together for the long haul, longevity, you got to be mindful of coming to a place of really understanding this person that you are in a relationship with, that you are in a marriage with, right? And I'm saying that for one another, that work has to be put in on both sides of that ping pong table. I can't stress that enough. And so as you elevate in that communication and as you come to understand, then you learn the tone and the delivery and the timing of when a thing can be communicated or when you need to refrain from communicating a thing for some time because you know your delivery or your tone is out of pocket, right? And so getting to that place, and that's just a nugget that I would say, even if it is something that is controversial or something that you know is going to cause controversy, one of the key things that we've learned, that I've learned, is that I wait till I come to a place of peace before I deliver it. Right? I'm prayerful, of course, but I make sure that I'm in the place of peace because you want to make sure that you're not in a place of where you feel like you're being combative or you're hurling shots or being sarcastic with it or anything like that, right? Because ultimately you want them to understand you and you want to understand them, and that should be your heart. Your heart definitely shouldn't be that you want to go to war with somebody that you're trying to be with, what we call forever or for the long haul or have that longevity. And so these are just some little nuggets or some little tips that I wanted to share. But these are about 5 things. And I have plenty more, but I'll save them. I don't want to for this length of time that this is. But just wanted to come and share and be transparent and to speak life over those who may be in a relationship. You may have been married longer than me, right? And maybe some of these things resonate with you in the stage that you're in. And maybe it's something that can be applicable to your relationship to help better it. Maybe there's a lot of confirmation. Maybe there are things you can relate to. Even if you're just starting a relationship, I pray that these be some treasures for you. Even if you desire to be in a relationship, maybe these are some things that can be planted, instilled in you to prepare you, right? Because one thing about a relationship, and I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna leave it alone, but a relationship has the potential. What it does, and a lot of times people don't really understand this, but when somebody is in your space, right, for a substantial amount of time, it tends to bring the best and the worst out of you. And I think that is legitimate, especially if you know how to handle the worst. Now, I'm not condoning domestic violence or anything of that nature. That I'm not doing. But what I am saying is that individual is there, and they being that you're sharing that space, they're going to see the good, the bad, and the ugly of you, right? And so, with that being said, you have to learn, right? You have to learn how to be. You have to be open to changes because you're going to have to make some changes. Listen, if you don't make any changes, it's not going to last. I'm telling you that one. If you're not going to make any changes, if you're going to be just stiff-necked, I'm not changing, this is who I am, especially if it is something that's bringing negative energy into your atmosphere, and if it's bringing toxicity or dysfunction, then you have to look at it. Now, it doesn't have to be a bad thing when these bad attributes come up. They're coming up so you can handle them and evolve into a better person. Relationships can help you evolve into becoming a better person, right? And so I just wanted to share that. For those who are single, hopefully these are some jewels that can help you and prepare you for your mate and get you prepared, get you knowledgeable, get you into a place where you're ready, right? To embrace it mentally. A lot of changes, a lot of shifts, but they can be done. This is Natasha Oquindo. Subscribe to my page, to my channel. I would love for you to subscribe and we can do life together. There are more things to come, more things to share with you, more wisdom, right? I love you. Be blessed.